Hello everybody and welcome to the War Room. This is an Inside the Circle edition, and today I'm going to be discussing Aung La and Sung against Reina Derrida. So this is the main event for One on TNT 4, which is approaching very soon. So this is a rematch. It wasn't the original matchup for this main event. It was supposed to be Aung La and Sung against Vitaly Bigdash, which was also a trilogy match. So we're hoping that that gets made up. So Reina Derrida was able to take the middleweight belt off Aung La and Sung in his last fight and in Aung La's last fight. This is a quick turnaround, immediate rematch. And Ridder said in his post-fight interview, he said, you know, it's most likely I'll have to give him a rematch immediately, given the fact that that Aung La, I think he'd had 3 or 4 successful title defenses. You know, so that kind of, it creates an argument, as well as it being a fast turnaround for him coming off the Brandon Vera victory. I've done an archive episode on that, so make sure you check it out. Aung La and Sung against Brandon Vera. Hell of a fight. Amazing fight. So a couple of weeks after that fight, Aung La was back in there against Derrida, defending his belt, defending his middleweight belt. Let me see if I can move this without making too much noise. No, I'll leave it where it is. So he was back in there against Derrida. Now, Reina Derrida, the Dutch Knight, is undefeated. He started judo when he was 5. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's very, very slick on the ground. 9 submissions, 3 knockouts on his record. He's a very talented individual. The only decision win on his record was the fight that his number 1 contender fight to face Aung La for the middleweight belt. So this is an interesting one because it was such a fast fight. I mean, you know, what was it? 3 minutes 26. The majority of the fight had Derrida on Aung La's back, chasing the rear naked choke. Aung La was defending, and there was a brief moment, lapsed concentration perhaps, or an adjustment that Derrida made, and he gave up the position and was submitted. So Aung La is coming back into this one, obviously, to try and get his belt back, to regain and become a 2-division champion again. Derrida is obviously trying to maintain his unbeaten record. Let's get into this. So obviously we'll start with the first fight. And with these two guys, you know, Aung La's used to fighting taller guys. He's used to fighting bigger guys, longer reach. He's got such good pressure that he's able to walk his opponents down and use cardiovascular, preparation, his conditioning. You know, he's very tough. He's very durable. He's very well prepared and conditioned. That's the first thing I want to talk about. So I'll just pull that back. So oftentimes he applies so much pressure on his opponents that they start to break. They start to make mistakes. They start to, rush back too fast and drop their hands. And there are lots of benefits to steady pressure. There's risks to it as well, of course, because you're moving forward, so you're potentially moving on to your opponent's shots. Your forward momentum. If somebody wants to take you down, you're helping them unless you're prepared to defend it. So that there are lots of downsides to pressuring constantly, but at the same time, if you're fighting taller people, you don't want to be on the end of their punches with them dictating the pace. So it's very characteristic in this first fight for Aung La to start walking forward straight away, starting to pressure, and it didn't take long for Reina Derrida to level change and look for his normal takedown that he goes for. But one of the signature punches, one of the signature techniques from Aung La is his uppercut. He's very good with his uppercut, both in the timing and in the shift of his weight from he shifts his weight across from one leg to the other and fires it right up the center line. So as you can imagine, with someone who's 6'4", it's not easy for Aung La, who's a few inches shorter, to be able to hit him cleanly with an uppercut without firing it much higher than he would have to against someone of his own size. A benefit in having a good uppercut, though, is that obviously, opponent that's level changing can also be moved onto an uppercut. And I think, you watch this first exchange here, and I get the impression that was Aung La's, that was his first plan. As the level change comes here, you can see him post with his lead hand, create a bit of space, and then he fires that uppercut, but it just misses. I mean, just misses. but he acknowledges it as well. It's like it's almost like he knows he's got his measure. Like, there we go. The other thing that we know him for is very powerful low kicks. You know, he beats you up from the ground up, and this is consistent across his fights, no matter who he's facing. He's got decent takedown defense, but he's much better against the fence. So this was a good move from Derrida to shoot out in the open. You know, if Derrida had done his research, then he would know that Aung La up against the fence is very difficult to take down. But if you level change, if you get a good position out in the open, even if you can't finish the takedown, you can often run up to a body lock and finish. And that's what Derrida's very good at. Oftentimes, what Derrida will do is he'll level change onto this lead leg, and he'll try and wrap that lead leg. But if he doesn't get it, then it allows him to slide straight up to a body lock, and then he's already to the side of his opponent. And then he dumps them. So this is what we see here. Look, he goes for that like really deep shot for that lead single. Southpaw to orthodox. It makes it easier for him to attack that lead leg. And then he builds straight up, look here, to a body lock, because as you can see, Aung La's got double overhooks. He's overhooked here and he's overhooked on the head, which allows Derrida to run him up into a body lock, step around to the side. Look how he chases the body and steps around to the side, and gets his right leg behind Aung La and then drops him over it. Really nice takedown there. And the other benefit in this, obviously, as we learned, is it exposes the back. As Aung La turns to get up, you see the adjustment of the right arm. It goes from here and then it goes straight over and clamps on like a seatbelt, straight over the top. And then he pulls himself into a back control position. And, you know, and from here, Aung La was defending. And, you know, he spent a couple of minutes defending. He was here. He was kind of looked a little frustrated, but it was very, you know, he had good defense up to a point. But then Derrida was able to get to a palm-to-palm position as they fell back. And unfortunately for Aung La, in this position, well, in any position, when Derrida gets an opportunity to squeeze on his opponent, he has what Eddie Bravo would refer to as a black belt squeeze. He doesn't go like squeeze as hard as he can, because he doesn't get chokes very often. And this is how you finish a choke. That's a very white belt thing to do. You know, when you see something, you attack it full force. The better people get at jiu-jitsu, the better people get at grappling arts. When you see them clamp onto a choke, you see a slow constricting squeeze. And, you know, like he's the Dutch Knight and he's fighting the Burmese Python. It should have been the other way around, perhaps. But, you know, it's that slow compressive squeeze. It's much easier for Derrida to maintain the squeeze, and it's much more difficult for his opponent to find a space, because it's not tense, and then they relax because they've got to rest, and then they go again. So you have those brief moments to rest. This slow, steady squeeze, and you can see here from it being palm to palm, starts. It's like it's across the bottom jaw, almost across the teeth. You can imagine how uncomfortable that would be. And he just slowly squeezes, and he gives Aung La two options here. He either stays in this position and potentially has his jaw dislocated from the pressure, or he lifts his chin up to relieve the pressure, and then he's exposed his chin, which is what actually happens. So look at this squeeze, and you can see him adjusting his grip, but he never releases the pressure. You know, he adjusts his grip, makes it a bit tighter, and then pulls again. And there's a point you can see here, because Aung La is trying to push on the elbow to move the choke up and over his head. But the positioning here is just far too difficult for him. And as he adjusts here, you see his chin pop through. And that's the point where it goes from being very uncomfortable there. Look, as his chin comes through. It goes from being very uncomfortable to being a choke. And then he can't breathe. And that's that. And as I said, with Derrida, this is a very typical game plan. You know, he comes out. We saw it in his debut. He comes out. He attacks the lead leg, and oftentimes he takes a couple of shots first. He'll take a big low kick or he'll take a big punch, and he rushes and he grabs a single leg, runs the pipe, and drops him to the canvas. And then they're into his game. And he's so good at spreading his weight over them, overhooking and underhooking and clamping, and, you know, using shoulder pressure to encourage them to turn in the directions that he wants. And as people scramble to their feet, He's got excellent Darce chokes, Bravo chokes, which I would imagine also go into Anacondas as well, because they sit nicely side by side. I mean, on his record, he's got 4 rear naked chokes, 2 arm bars, a Darce choke, an arm triangle, and a triangle. There's nice variety in those 9 submissions, but rear naked chokes being his main one, and that's exactly what we saw in that last fight against Aung La. So he feels comfortable with that submission, but it doesn't mean that there aren't a variety of others that he could potentially attack. And this is a good example. So most of the time, what people want to do when they get into this position, they want to try and control the leg. So they'll use their leg to come over and control the leg of their opponent. So then they can compress them with their upper and lower body. But again, I talk about a black belt squeeze. He knows that he can maintain pressure, squeezing with his arms and then steadily moving himself in the same direction as his opponent. So in this position, Fan is trying to run away in this direction, and Derrida is chasing him going in this direction. So whilst at the same time maintaining this squeeze here, this triangle that he's got on his head, he's also slowly chasing him, like he's corkscrewing that pressure into him as well. I'll play it through so you can see. You can see how he's chasing him. And at the same time as he's chasing him, he's also driving Fan's head further and further into his chest. Here we go. Look, you can see the arm come through. Hand goes on the bicep. And then he sits back and drags his opponent towards him. Now, this is the position most fighters, they'd fire this leg over and they'd hook here, because then that stops their opponent doing the runaway and trying to alleviate the pressure. But he's so confident in his squeeze, he just allows them to move away. He does, and it's consistent as well, because once he's got that upper body lock and he keeps chasing with his legs, it's only a matter of time before they pass out anyway. Oh, there we go. It's only a matter of time before they fall asleep anyway. So having that freedom to not have to completely control the body in order to render somebody unconscious is, incredibly valuable. And as we know from Unsung, he's not going to go away easy. It doesn't matter who it is. I mean, do yourself a favor and watch his first fight against Ken Hasegawa. It was just an absolute war. It was blood and guts and glory, and both guys gave everything, and it was the determination of Aung La that got him through that fight. So with someone like Unsung, you have to put them in a position where they have to give up, like the rear naked choke. You have to put them in a position where you can put them to sleep, and that's knocking them out or choking them out. Okay, let's quick cross over to Aung La, because like I talked about in the archive when I was covering his fight with Brandon Vera, he's so good at varying his targets. So he'll stand out in front of his opponent. He'll slowly edge his way into range in a very kind of loose, relaxed kind of way, and he'll start chopping into their legs, really, really hard low kicks, and they start to be affected by those low kicks immediately. And then he's jabbing the body at the same time, and then he starts coming over the top with the right hand. As you watch his fights, and this is the reason I did the archive for the Brandon Vera one, is so you can watch that fight as it is and understand the dismantling that Brandon Vera experiences. It's like it's tidal is his game. He just it's the waves coming in. He just drowns you with pressure. It's like he uses his low kicks to bury you up to the waist in sand, so you just can't get away. Then he starts digging into your body as well, so you can't, your lungs are empty and your body's hurting. And then he finds the vulnerability, whether it's a head kick or a short right hand or whatever. In this fight, this was his rematch against Big Dash, where he won the title, and this was in the first round. And he plays the game. He stings him a few times with a jab to the body, and then he has the same posture as he's lowering, but he comes in with a short right hand, which really hurts Big Dash. So here we go. Body shot. Then we're going to see another one here. And then this next one, he level changes. It's almost like he's going in the same direction, but he catches Big Dash with a clean. Where are we here? See how he ducks? like his head comes right down, and he catches Big Dash on the way down with a short right hook, and immediately you can see the legs have gone, and he chases him down. And he's got nice variety in his punches as well. I mean, he's using this kind of hammer fist. We see the uppercut make an appearance there again. Good ground and pound, heavy hands on the ground. And, he also had to solve the problem of having his back taken. And this may have been the clip, because this was, what was this? This was 2 fights before, I believe. Let me just have a quick look. Oh no, this was a few fights before. But this was definitely a fight that Derrida would have watched, and he would have seen this moment where his back was exposed. And this is really nice work from Big Dash as well. Takes his back. There's a little trip here of the foot. Look at that. Hooks the leg, and then he slides his hook in, takes the back. And that moment there, you can imagine if you're Derrida, you're thinking, I can replicate that. I can have that same kind of attack and put him in that position, but not allow him to scramble out. Because against Big Dash, he was able to get out almost immediately, and he was on top then. And the power that he's got in his hands when he's on the feet is just as dangerous on the floor. And the one question that we have to solve is, what if he finds himself on the floor, on the bottom with Derrida on top of him? Because it would only be a matter of time if he didn't have any options to find himself pressured to turning and giving his back, or scrambling to his knees and find himself in a Darce choke position. He has excellent butterfly hooks, and he's used them in a few fights, but this is the best example here. And you'll see, you can see he's trying to get a butterfly hook on this near side already. He's trying to get that leg in and hook under his opponent's thigh, so he can elevate them and start getting them moving. But his opponent does a good job of flattening that out. You'll see. So there's the butterfly hook. This is what I'm talking about. And so there's the foot, and then there's the leg. But you can think, he's got such powerful lower body. He's got such heavy, thick legs. When that transfers into his punching power and into that uppercut, we can see the power he generates, because he really hurts people. But this is the same mechanism, the spring-loaded, the leg, which can quite easily lift and fire his opponent off. So anytime his opponent feels this, and this is going to be the same for Derrida, anytime Derrida feels this, he's going to be trying to flatten this out. But he does a really good job of switching sides here. So he loses this butterfly hook at the same time as firing his other one through the opposite side. You can actually see him blocking this leg with his forearm. He comes through, and he switches his hips over, and now he's got the butterfly hook on the other side. Thank you, cameraman, for switching sides. There's the butterfly hook on the opposite side now. Now he's going to lift with this leg and elevate over at the same time as using the leg that was a butterfly hook, I hope you're following, to now chop underneath him and take his base away. Look at that. See how that, not only is he lifting over with the butterfly hook to fully elevate, and this, in this moment here, there are two things at work. One is the butterfly hook. But imagine if this foot wasn't here stopping his opponent's leg. This opponent's going to hop this foot out and base out. And then he's managed to collapse another butterfly hook. So Unsung has adapted. And as it comes through this time, he uses the bottom leg to hook and force his opponent's hips to turn. And then he's in mount. And then just short range power, he actually also catches the arm. You can see the hand is caught there as well, which also allows him, when he's in this position, to unload sort of 2 or 3 good shots and hurt his opponent before the arm gets free. And then he starts raining down the pressure. The heavy-handedness on the feet is very much the same on the floor when he's in top position. If he does find himself defending takedowns and find himself in top position, obviously he's got to watch out for attacks off the back, triangles and arm bars and stuff. But I think he can land some real heavy bombs on Derrida from the top position. So that's something that he has to consider, is forcing the fight to scramble, but at the same time, when he is scrambling, being aware of the submissions that Derrida's got prepared for him. If he is able to get that butterfly hook moving and he's able to elevate Derrida and he gets to his knees, then there's the back take or the Darce choke that he's got to be considering. The best thing, obviously, for Aung La to do is to keep this fight on the feet, is to walk Derrida down and get inside his long range and beat him up to the body and beat him up to the legs, bury him up to the waist in sand, and then start figuring out how you knock him out. Because there's no doubt Ung La's got the power to do it. If he was able to beat Brandon Vera up the way he did, as long as this fight maintains on the feet, I think Ung La can do the same thing to him. The difficulty is when it hits the floor. It's the scrambles that Derrida can create. Shoots him for the single leg, runs up to the body lock, bumps him over, and then starts working to attack the neck. There's a lot of danger as soon as he makes contact with Derrida. At the same time, if he's at distance, then he's going to find himself on the edge of Derrida's range. And although he's not got the most finesse in his striking style, he's 6'4" and he's a southpaw, which makes him very difficult to deal with. So in this fight, this is the best example of how uncomfortable his reach looks. Now he looks like Alexander Volkov to me here. He looks so tall and overbearing, and Galvao just can't touch him, but also can't get away from him. Obviously there's a height and reach disadvantage here, but Galvao's swinging and trying to hit him, and like I said, there's not the finesse in his striking, but he's still able to make contact. He's on the single leg here, as we talked about, moves up to a body lock, bumps him over to the side. Same technique again. You can see the pattern there. But now he's in this top position and Galvao's scrambling, and you can see how strong Galvao is. He wasn't able to maintain the floor position. So they're back in the striking range. But again, you can see the long range striking and how problematic it is. If Ung La is not able to transition through this range, he's going to find himself on the end of these all night long. Look at that. Right. You can see the wind up of the punch here. The left hook's on its way, and he just intercepts it, straight line right to the chin. Bang. Turns his opponent's body, and you can also tell the reach disadvantage of his opponent as well, because that left hook is miles away, even though he fully extended it. Derrida, if he's forced to fight on the feet, can make it very uncomfortable for Ung La. He seems to have conditioning that goes into later rounds, but I don't know whether he can deal with the pace of Ung La. I also don't know how he would deal with the volume of low kicks and body shots that he's going to have to deal with. So the question is, does Derrida force a takedown, force a grappling exchange early on and try and replicate the same kind of victory? Or does he drag it out and then, lull Ung La into a false sense of security, like he's going to strike with him and then level change later in the rounds? By that point, he might have had his leg kicked to bits. There are so many things you have to consider coming into this, knowing what we know about both fighters, knowing how tough Ung La is, how stubborn his takedown offense is. Derrida could wear himself out like he has done in other fights, clinching and tying his opponent up against the fence and not being able to finish the takedown. I never get the guy's name right. Ataides defended almost all of his takedowns, and anytime he was taken down, he was back to his feet very quickly. So I think Ung La, especially coming into this one, will have the respect for Derrida's game that he's gonna be able to try. I think he's gonna be able to keep this one on the feet, but then he has to deal with this this grinding style of Derrida, where he keeps you at a distance and then closes range and starts landing knees. And the knees that he lands on the feet as well, Derrida's got good knees. He's got a couple of stoppages from knees early in his career. He can also utilize them under the one rules as well, because these are legal knees under the one FC rules, which I think is, I love it. It keeps the fights moving. It doesn't allow people to to rest in positions, and it forces people to work out of these bad positions and not assume that they're going to be safe. Like you can see here, he's got this clamp position on, and the strength of Galvao. I mean, if he was to risk transitioning to a DARS, which would mean that this hand would need to slide up to this bicep, there's a moment there where someone with the strength of Galvao is just going to force their way out of it, and then he's lost the position entirely. But he's able to keep clamped onto this and just keeps powering these knees into the side of the head. He gets the tap there. Something else that Ung La's got to be considering. If he does find himself scrambling to his feet and he gets into these positions where the DARS choke is a threat, there's also the threat of the knees to the head, which you only need a couple to to get the fight finished. Where are we next? So one thing that I think might work out quite well for Ung La in this fight is the fact that he's fighting a southpaw. Let me have a quick sip. He's got good experience against southpaws, and also given the fact that he can switch stances and he can fight out of both stances, and he's got a heavy attack from both stances. I think he's able to make this work regardless. But Derrida is a southpaw. He's also very tall, so you can't assume that the head kick's always going to get through. But body kicks certainly can, and body kicks also open up other things. The variety of low kicks and body kicks also tend to bring people's body down. They tend to start arching over and leaning into things because they're not sure whether the body kick's coming or the low kick's coming, but everything's starting to hurt now, so you just kind of want to defend everything. That's what we see in this fight here. So this is we're gonna see Ensang crack to the body. Really nice kick to the body there. Look at the defense of his opponent. It's important to note. So he's braced over, his hands high, but there's a gap underneath which Aung La is going to come through with his shin and catch him right in the midsection. Catches him clean there. So think about this as like he's programming his opponent. He's programming them so when the body kick comes, they have the same reaction again. Wait for it. There we go. Look at that. Look at the same position. Arms up. Gap to the midsection's there. But this time he's not going to the midsection. This time he's going high. And even though his opponent's guard's up, because he throws it with such force and because he's nothing's coming back. I mean, this is a, kick the bag as hard as you can kind of kick. He can fully wind that up. It lands shin to the front side of his opponent's head. Foot wraps around to the side and his opponent drops, and that's that fight done. There's also one other thing I want you to notice as well, which it elevates the level of understanding of Aung La in his striking game. So as you can see here, he's right up against, he's got his opponent backed up against the fence. So his opponent's got two options. He can go this way or this way. Aung La is going to make this decision for him because he knows that he wants to use this left leg and he wants to intercept him as he's moving. So as this moves on, you'll see what Aung La will do is he'll start to pressure, he'll start to close this door here, which will force his opponent to move in the direction that he wants to, so he's moving towards the kick. This is a benefit in this kind of footwork as well. You see how he nudges his opponent without even really touching him, but forces him, keeps the squeeze on him, keeps him over that black line, this one here. And then he's going to force him to the side again. He's going to jog just to the outside, look, forces him again. So he's moving his opponent onto the head kick. There's the last one, look. Steps and then steps in because now he's got his opponent much closer to the fence. There's not the space to move. Jogs him in one more time, look, takes that space away from him and then skips across and powers in. Because he's able to sweep his opponents onto his kick, it can accentuate the force and it can also allow him to set them up in a variety of different ways. So being able to work the low kicks as well as work the body with the kicks and hands, as well as coming over the top with hands, and also maybe throwing that head kick up, it opens up a variety of different attacks. This is the Hasegawa fight I was telling you about. Go and watch this. This was the rematch. And he beat the hell out of Hasegawa's body. I mean, look at this. Look at this bruising here. Like, just look at that bruising there. Like that's. I mean, this is halfway. Well, 3.5 into the second round. There weren't many kicks that created that damage. It was predominantly the second round that he did this. So we're talking, 3 minutes worth of work. But he'd already got Hasegawa reacting to these body kicks because he kept thundering him in and finding his way through the guard. And then he starts firing the right hand. And they couple really nicely. There's the body kick again. But the position that you see Hasegawa when he drops, you can see the position that he was expecting. He wasn't sure whether the body kick was coming. It's the same thing that we've just seen in the other clip. Like, he's reaching down, look, as the right hand comes through. So the benefit of working the legs, then working the body, and then starting to, and mixing up the variety of attacks is that your opponent, when they see you move, and because he's so relaxed, he gets away with so much. When your opponent sees you move, they don't know whether it's body kick or head kick or, what am I covering? Because you can't cover everything in MMA. There's always an opportunity to get through the guard. And if you've got an opponent that's calculated, not only with their footwork, but also with their placement of shots, it's very difficult to expose holes in people's games. And, for as good as Derrida is on the floor, and for as impressive as that last victory was over Unsung, took him down, took his back, choked him out, the ability of Aung La on the feet, even into the later rounds, this is the finish of the Hasegawa fight. Beautiful uppercut. Reminds me of Brian Ortega, Frankie Edgar. Just steps off, comes straight up the center line. And again, we talk about the power in his legs from his butterfly hooks. That is a lift from the lower body. Look, there it is. All of his power from his legs drive into that uppercut, and Hasegawa is done. So let me summarize. Let's just watch that one more time. There we go. Okay, let me summarize. So the fast attack we know is a possibility for Derrida. He could quite easily come crashing in and jump on Aung La N Sung. He's on that single leg. He runs up to the body, drops him over to the side, and then he forces him to scramble to his knees and takes his back. It's the most obvious one. The second option, obviously, is him going for the Darce choke as Aung La's scrambling, and he can also control him and throw knees there. Taking Aung La down is probably the smartest thing for Ridder to do, but if he's too obvious about it, he's going to make it very difficult for him. Aung La's got good footwork. He's good at pressuring with takedown defense, but he is better at defending takedowns against the fence. So, him pressuring forward, there is a danger, there is a detriment to that. But the benefit of him being able to pressure his opponent and being able to force them to work when they don't want to is going to be exhausting for Derrida. And that's where we see, his championship qualities if the fight goes into the 4th and 5th round. It's, can he keep up with Unsung? Can he deal with the amount of damage that he's already taken up to that point in the fight? And can he apply his game? Because his striking is not, it doesn't compare to Unsung's in its technical ability or its power from what I can tell. He's got 13 wins on his record. He's got 3 stoppages, but 2 of them are from knees. And that's because he's clamped onto his opponent and he's been able to drive his whole body weight into them. It's not like he's heavy-handed. If he gets a stoppage with punches, it's going to be volume from a top position. So the punching power, the kicking power is definitely on Unsung's part in this one. But keeping this one on the feet is going to be a challenge for him. He does have a variety of submissions, so if he is taken down, like I said, there are options to submit off the back. He's got guillotines as well. We've seen them in 1FC as well. So in Galan, he got caught with the guillotine, didn't he? So it's not out of the question for Unsung to challenge on the floor as well. I mean, he was originally a grappler when he got into mixed martial arts, but has definitely found himself much more of a striker at this point in his career. But I think this is a really fascinating fight. And the fact that they know each other, they've fought before, the fact that the belt was changed hands the last time around, and the fact that a belt's on the line this time around, it just makes it so much more interesting for me. So make sure you tune into this one. This is the main event for one on TNT4. Aung La N Sung, the Burmese Python, great nickname, against Reinier de Ridder, the Dutch Knight, great nickname. Enjoy the fights. I'll see you next time.